Welcome back. Time for us to look at some important issues. And this morning we'll be focusing on gender-based violence. Of course, the emergence of COVID-19 since December has increased the rate of rape cases that have been reported, especially within the last few weeks. We saw the death of Vera Owaila, the death of Barakat, who were raped, not just raped, but also killed. And we are going to be looking at these issues and ways to tackle these issues headlong. I have joining me this morning Ibukun Otesile. She is a gender activist. Good morning.
Good morning. I like to say a rather advocate.
Advocate, okay. A gender advocate. Okay. What's the difference? An activist and advocate?
Well, with advocacy, we dialogue, we look for ways to bring about solutions and all that. But again, maybe because of our climate, where you use the word activism, people tend to add fights, altercations, protests, all of that to it.
But advocacy also involves protests.
Well, yes, it does involve it, but the general once it's activism, it is a looter. We must fight. we can't actually have a dialogue. We can't reason. So
okay,
advocacy goes beyond that.
Let's go to the business of the day. Let's start by drawing a parallel between sexual violence, sexual harassment, and rape.
Okay, so first, all of them come under gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is any form of violence that is done to a person as a result of the gender of the person. So you look at the position of authority to somebody in a position of disadvantage in the first place. So sexual violence is a form of gender-based violence, and then there are quite a number of them. Now, when you talk about rape talks about forceful penetration of sexual activity or sexual intercourse. That is, you talk about, for instance, with when you're talking about the man to the woman or the male to the female, it has to be vaginal penetration. Anything that penetrates the organ. It could also be the mouth. Now we've come to understand that it goes beyond the blank umbrella that we had before, that it had to be vaginal penetration. We know there is anal sex, we know there is oral sex. So when there is penetration, you forceful without the consent of the other party, then it is said to be rape. Now, when it is a minor that is involved, is said to be statutory rape, because you cannot get consent from a minor, anyone less than 18. You can't say you got consent. So if you have sexual relationship with anyone under that age, under the law, it is still, said to be rape. Now let's come to sexual harassment. So you make demands for sex from me, I deny or I decline, and based on that, you deny me of some favors or some rights that should come to me. So that becomes harassment, and you find that a lot in our places of work, in our schools, in our churches sometimes, so that at that point becomes sexual harassment. What's the other one?
That's it. Okay. And rape, you've already talked about it.
Yes, so that's rape.
Over the years, when the issues of rape have been talked about, the issue of consent has also been debated, with some people saying, giving different definitions to consent. And then some people will tell you there's partial consent, there's no consent, there's you getting in the middle of the whole action and then withdrawing consent. What exactly is consent?
Well, consent simply says that I want you to do this, or I allow you to do this. There's nothing about partial. Once there is that part of partiality added to it, then it's no longer consent, because consent has to be willful. So if I say, come to my house, I give you consent to come. If you're on your way and I call you and say, sorry, please, I need to sort out something, I can't attend to you again, please don't come to my house, it is no longer consent for you to come to my house. So in this regard, also, when you talk about sexual relationship, or you talk about rape, or you talk about, gender-based violence, as it is, whether sexual or, or otherwise, consent simply means that I give permission, I allow you to come into my space and do whatever it is that, we want to do. But the moment I say it is no longer okay, it is no longer
Even
consent.
if it's in the middle of the
That's,
action.
the truth about it is no longer consent, because you see, sometimes I've heard cases where, even though not to justify it, but that's in reality what it should be, where a woman just wants to be not actually have sex, not have penetrative activity, not actually go all the way.
Just the
And then,
foreplay, yeah.
just the foreplay. But that's one thing that some people are not able to understand. So if that which I want is just the foreplay, we need to have that understanding and keep it at that. So because I say I allow you to kiss me, I allow you to, hold me, does not mean that I actually want you to sleep with me or actually go all the way and have sex with me. So those are concerns that we need to look at. But as we say that, it's just safe not to just come close and put yourself in positions where you might then be at a disadvantage.
Except you get an express.
It has to be expressed. Yes, it really just has to be expressed. As long as we're looking at consent and vis-a-vis what the law provides for us, it has to be expressed, explicit. Like, I want you to do this. Let's do this. I don't want you to do it. I don't want you. Yes or no. There is no in between yes or no.
Now, let's look at some statistics here. In Kaduna, the United Nations Children's Fund said that 1 in 4 boys and 1 in 10 girls under the age of 18 have been victims of sexual violence. What can we attribute this to?
Well, there are quite a number of reasons that we can bring to sexual violence in our community and the increase. I always like to make this analogy. I use it every time that I have an opportunity. If you have a wound that you leave not untreated, the wound will fester and possibly even become gangrenous, and you might have to have that part of the body amputated, and that's where we are. It's been a wound. It's been with us for a very, very long time, and it's been left unattended to, plus the fact that so many other things have happened, like culture erosion, value erosion. A lot of things have happened that has brought us to this point. So when we look at what are the causes, there are quite a number of them. You look at parenting. Parents, and I always bring it back to the table, parents are not available for their children to protect, to care for their children, to give them the necessary care that they need. I beg your pardon. Yeah, to give them the necessary care that they need. So that is a major concern where we have that. Again, we cannot excuse the influence of the social media. Now, I keep saying it, what you hear over time, either in forms of songs or in words, actually has a way of...
Movies.
Yes, movies has a way of, over time, affecting your disposition to a particular thing. And there's hardly a hit song in Nigeria today that does not have sex content in it. So when we begin to look at, or we begin to ask ourselves questions like, why do we have this number of cases of rape and abuse? We need to begin to go to those areas. Like, why do we... Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry.
Why do we have so much sex everywhere that we go to? So the parents that have failed, parents are no longer available for their children. Now, another thing is the increase in rate of separation, divorce. Even though that we say that when there is violence involved, there is, life is when you are alive that you can take care of your children. But we've also realized that most of the children that experience one form of abuse come from dysfunctional families, divorced families, separated families, families where you have parents not playing their role, whether the father is irresponsible or the mother is irresponsible, as you may look at it. So that's another major reason why, of course, there's been an increase. And again, because there are no punitive measures. They always say, you're about to say, where there is no law, there is no sin. And I always take it a step further to say that where you have laws and those laws are not executed, those laws are not implemented, you still do not have sin. Now, because for a long time, the process of conviction or the rate of conviction has been low when it comes to sexual violence against women, against children, even against boys, against the male folk, because we've had low conviction. Of course, it's a field day, everybody can do anything they can. Now, that, I must say, is tied to the fact that the culture of silence has allowed the low conviction to continue. We have had so many cases where victims don't report, and then even when they report, because they are either stigmatized,
Victim
there's,
shaming.
victim shaming, or they are intimidated and pressurized by the family of the perpetrator or the community itself. They withdraw the cases.
Talking about punitive measures, the Child Rights Act has been enacted since 2003, but a lot of states are still are yet to domesticate it.
Yes.
Shouldn't the federal government be able to enforce and ensure that this act is enforced or domesticated?
The truth, unfortunately, about that is because we are in a democracy. So the federal government can only just advocate to the state. There's some level of autonomy that some states, or that states generally enjoyed in democracy. I'll cite an example. Okay, so during the COVID-19 lockdown, the heat of the lockdown, in a particular state, let me remember the states now, I can't remember the state. There's a particular state that, because of, I think it was in Kano. Yeah, I think it was Kano that had this unexplained increase of deaths and all that. And then the governor initially had insisted on a stricter lockdown than what the federal government had put in place, and there was a protest. Then the state governor went back and rescinded on what the federal government had said and reduced or eased that lockdown. Now, that tells you that there's some level of autonomy within the state, and that's where we're at. Although, of course, it also shows that the federal government is not doing enough in getting other states to actually domesticate it. But it still comes to advocacy. I think we have just about 17 states that have actually domesticated the Child Act, and so it's a major concern. That's why
36 state governors of Nigeria have now resolved to declare a state of emergency on gender-based violence against women and children. But we know that even the register, that's the sexual offenders register, has only been effective in states like Lagos and one other state, several other states, Ekiti. So it means that several other states are really not taking this issue serious, even though we keep mouthing it, saying that we need to fight sexual violence. But are we really serious about tackling it in our actions?
Well, I might not be able to talk so much about other states, but I can at least to some extent talk about your state right now. And I make bold to say that presently there are some bills at the House right now going through hearing to address this. Now, one of them would actually look at having stricter measures, one of them will also look at the establishment of what we've been clamoring for, which is a one-stop center, a one-stop referral response center for gender-based violence response. So that I can say, and then once we have that, of course, the offenders register, which is, what you're talking about, shaming the perpetrator, also comes into play. So I can tell you categorically that, your state, so much is being done in that regard that I believe that there will be public hearing very soon in another God willing 1 month thereabout. We should be able to say yes, your state we also have a functioning sex offenders register. Now that much I can say, but for other states, and that's what I always tell people, that it goes beyond us just going on the streets and talking. Yes, we do that, but can associations, can networks actually engage with the government? Like, okay, so we've spoken about it, the police are investigating to bring the culprits to book, but beyond that, what are the preventive measures that we put in place? Let's begin to make demands. Let's request to engage them. There's a House of Assembly that should be engaged. There's the judicial arm that should be engaged. There's the executive arm that should be engaged. So when people hold them accountable, because the truth about it is, it's their job function to ensure safety of life and property, and that's why they are there, whether elected or appointed. Now, when the people in the state hold them accountable, engage with them, interface with them, then it becomes a lot more easier to actually see significant progress in their work to fight.
Now, a lot of people have called for more stringent laws to tackle this menace. But some other people, especially those in the legal profession are saying that we already have a law in place. For instance, it's 14 years for attempted rape and then life imprisonment for the actual rape itself. But these laws have not been effective over the years. Some people are even saying that maybe we should begin to castrate these perpetrators. But some other people have argued that, saying that if you castrate them, they might cause more harm to the victims. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I can say that some of those laws have options of fine. So, somebody, you say 14 years and then you give him option of fine. So you give a leeway. And once you give a leeway, you and I understand how that can be. So we need to...
But most times it doesn't even get to that point of giving that option of fine.
The problem with our laws, the rate of conviction, the low rate of conviction, another problem we have is that people do not understand how the law works. Now, what you know as a lawyer or as a judge is different from what you see. Now, what the law says is you base your judgment on what is presented before you, not what you hear, or not what you feel, not what you know. You understand? So that gives a lot of leeway to perpetrators, because most of the time when rape happens, when sexual abuse happens, people do not go to preserve evidence. They don't know what to do.
So it's not easy to prove.
Yes, and it's pretty technical. Most of the times, evidence is washed away and tampered with before they get to the hospitals. Now, even with the results, so what the police have is not solid enough to actually nail the perpetrator. So that's one of the reasons why we have low conviction, and it looks as if we have laws and these laws are not effective. So we need to begin to do a lot of education, let people, and that's one thing that having the referral center would do. So once a crime is committed, a sexual crime is committed, or a gender-based violence crime is committed, immediately you report, you carry yourself or get there, or you help the person to get to that place without tampering with the evidence. Now, from that point
where would that be located? Is it within the police stations?
No. It's not. I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to be within the police station. It's going to be a facility, on its own.
Okay.
That,
like an NGO?
No, not an NGO. It's like a government structure, because at that point you have medical examination. They can access medical examination there. They can access psychosocial support that they need there. Now, the legal help that they need also, they can access. It's like it's a one-stop shop. Everything that a victim needs, they can get to there. So when the victim is able to get there, it reduces the possibility of tampering or washing away the evidence. When we have solid evidence, then it makes it a lot more easier to have our
before you go, I'd like you to state clearly what should a rape victim do immediately he or she has been raped, and to give out numbers that they can call in cases of rape.
Okay, so what a rape victim should do once rape happens, please do not change, do not base, do not do anything. Just get yourself to the nearest police station. Now, as you are getting to the police station, there are numbers that you reach out to call. I guess probably because my phone is not with me, so I would give the number and then the numbers can be shown on the screen. Now, there are numbers that you need to call. Make sure that you call any of those numbers. Is that the Human Rights Commission? Your state has a sexual and gender-based rapid response team. Domiciled in the Ministry of Justice that works 24/7. There is also the Oyo State Rapid Response on Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. Domiciled in the Ministry of Women Affairs with numbers that you can. Once you call, they are 24 hours. So as you present at the police station, you call those numbers so they can also give the support that you need. Now, from the police station, the police will give an extra and take you to the hospital, the way you are.
But we've also had cases where the police eventually blame the victim.
That's why I said that a lot is being done, of course, in advocacy and capacity building for police officers. And that's why I said it is important that as you're going to the police station, you make these other calls so that, collaborative effects will ensure that justice is not perverted at any point.
Sadly, I have to let you go. I know there's still a lot to talk about, but thank you so much, Ibukunoluwa Otesile, gender advocate.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on this issue. We've been talking about gender-based violence. It is a sad incident that has been spiking in recent times, and we hope that the needful will be done, especially in the area of enforcing laws to deal with perpetrators of this act. We'll take another short break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.